Do like this text, hey Gregor, the reason you're a good parallel parker is because you're a farmer, and farmers have the ability to drive any shape of vehicle through many spaces. Took my driver's test in a snowstorm in '84 and nailed it. Damn laugh because I nailed it. Farmers, most skilled. Probably something to that.
A snowstorm in September or October, like that's not. Jeez.
Well, are you telling me the Parker? Like, what if he's born in February? Well, 60. Trust me, when you're a farm kid, the minute you turn 16, you get your license. I can't believe it. Some of my nieces and nephews, they turn 16, they can get their license for like a year, and I was like, what is happening? Can't relate to that. I can't do it. I'm just like, what? I want to be able to drive right away. But I grew up on a farm, and my parents were like, yeah, you're getting a driver's license. I'm sick of driving in practice. So I get it. Levinson, how are you at parallel parking?
I think I'm okay.
Okay. Well, just because I know you're right. Like, well, you're a car driver, so you can turn left or right. You're not a NASCAR driver, so you can turn both ways.
Yeah, just keep me out of the rain.
Interesting. Let's talk about F1. When Ferrari, he wins the pole, Leclerc, but then crashes out on the last run of a qualifying 3, which was kind of weird. But that whole race, man, was it's kind of bananas a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we predicted a lot of that stuff. Talked about it last week. Monaco is just super tight. There is, if you're going to extract a lap and you're really going to be in competition, you've got to be literally within inches of the walls in a lot of places. And Leclerc laid down a really good lap. The way the qualifying sessions typically work is most teams will do 2 runs. So they'll go out and basically do what they consider banker's laps, unless they know that the weather or the track conditions really going to deteriorate. Generally, they go out and do more of a safety lap where they're going to be pushing, but they're not full push to get a lap in the books. And then, they'll go in, put a new set of tires on, make minor adjustments to the car, and go out and do like a real rip lap. And on the final session, it just pushed a little bit too far. And I mean, it was, he was probably, without exaggerating, was 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch too far towards the wall. Broke his front suspension, and at that point he became a passenger. Tagged the wall, destroyed his car. There was a lot of speculation as to whether or not they'd be able to get it fixed, whether they'd have to replace a gearbox, which would mean that they would have to start at the back. They chose not to do any of that. Their data and the telemetry said that they should be okay. And unfortunately, they went out for warm up on Sunday. They knew that the car wasn't quite right, and it turned out to be something on the left side output shaft, but they just weren't able to get it fixed. They had to retire, and unfortunately for Leclerc, who's actually from Monaco, lost out. He's never ever finished the race, and while this was going to be his shot for a win in his hometown, absolute heartbreak.
Colin, there's some people thought that maybe he was trying to, screw some other drivers over. So how would someone intentionally cause a red, yellow flag to kind of, and how would that affect another driver's race?
It's happened. I mean, what a driver can do is if they push towards, you get towards a corner, and there's in Monaco specifically, there are runoff areas. A driver will, quote unquote, overcook the car, get too hot into the corner, can't get the car started. They don't really do any damage. They fake and so I can't get into reverse. They kind of sell it to where a caution flag gets thrown, which basically ends the session. It's happened a handful of times in history. This definitely wasn't a case of any kind of shenanigans. It was, obviously, what they ended up, costing them. There was no upside to destroying the car. If you're going to do that, you kind of run into a runoff area, or, if you've got a tire barrier or something like that. But it was just unfortunate.
What happened to Mercedes?
Oh man, we might need 2 shows worth of time to go through all that. I mean, short version is now Valtteri Bottas and that Mercedes team now has one of the longest pit stops in history. Brought him in. I was running in the top three. Came in for a regular scheduled pit stop, and something I've never seen before. But they went to pull his right front tire off and strip the nut. There was basically no material. The nut basically just came apart in the wheel wrench in the socket, and that was day over for them.
Wow, because that's a tough one, man. You don't see that very often because and it's just kind of rare to not see a Hamilton involved. But now a strip nut, I have to think that's pretty rare, or is this more common and we just don't talk about it?
I've never seen it. You like even in NASCAR and IndyCar, it's not something, during pit stops, it's not uncommon for a wheel nut to come off. If people pay attention to the pit stops, there's going to be a lot of them this weekend with the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. A lot of like NASCAR will glue the nuts onto the wheels so that when they do the stop, they don't have to place them. The nuts are in place. Once in a while, you go to pop that wheel on and a nut will actually dislodge. All the crew guys have spare nuts that are sitting around their waist belt. They can throw one on if the nut kind of rolls out of reach. And same with IndyCar. Again, just never ever seen this before. It's strange. I'm looking forward to the debrief that Mercedes puts out to go in some detail as to what happened.
Talking all things racing with Colin Levinson for the CanTorque Racing Report. Maybe touch on a little bit IndyCar and how some of the cars are surprisingly kind of lost control during practice and how that would affect them, moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon for guys to hit the wall. Obviously, this is such a big weekend for motorsports. I mean, Indy 500 and Coke 600 are two of the flagship events in all of motorsports. There's a lot of big weekends, but for me, it doesn't really get bigger than this. But yeah, unfortunately, Santino Ferrucci lost control in turn two, as did Alex Palou during their during practice and the qualifying run. Like hard hits. And what's surprising to me is that their teams were actually able to repair their cars, which meant they didn't have to, forfeit anything. Palou had already done a qualifying run. This was to try and move up the field. IndyCar, Indy 500 qualifying is unbelievably complicated. How many different things go on qualifying day. But kudos to both their teams to be able to get these cars back together. I mean, the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan team of Ferrucci, I mean, they literally worked through the night, and some guys didn't actually get to go home before day two of Friday qualifying, and same with the Ganassi guys. And both had respectable showings. I mean, Ferrucci was a little banged up. He had kind of banged his knee and his lower leg. But for the most part, yeah, those guys just came back swinging, and both had really good qualifyings.
Colin Levinson joins us. Colin, Scott Dixon wins the pole. That'll be his fourth Indy 500 pole. And tomorrow is carb day. That's the last day the cars are on the track before Sunday's race. So what, does anything really change between Friday and Sunday historically?
Oh yeah. I mean, these cars are so sensitive to temperature. If, for example, they go out on Friday, teams are, from this point on, this is the first time these cars are going to be on track since Sunday. So they finished qualifying. Then they had a 2-hour practice late Sunday night. But this is, again, the first time they've been on track in almost a week. If, for example, tomorrow is cloudy, but the race is sunny, whatever they think their setup is going to be based on what happens tomorrow is going to totally change. It's, they do a lot of this stuff historically, the way it's always been done. But yeah, it'll be interesting, to see. Hopefully everyone can be well behaved. But, one of the shocking things, everyone knows how great of a driver Scotty D is. This is his first pole in 4 years. Like, he hasn't got a single pole since his last the last pole he got at the 500 and whatever it was, 2018. Been quick all month. He's definitely going to be a favorite, and it's going to be really, really interesting to watch the Penske cars.
Shifting gears over with Colin Levinson for the CanTorque Racing Report into NASCAR, and this past weekend at the Echo Park Texas Grand Prix, the Circuit of Americas in Austin, there was pretty bad visibility. We saw a lot of incidents happen on the track. Is there a like a measuring stick to say, no, this is too much, and we're not going to be able to do it, or should there be one?
I mean, like so many things in NASCAR, it's super subjective. They waited until they got a lot of response back from drivers complaining before they noticed that there was so much standing water. I mean, this isn't a really hard equation to figure out, that when you take a 3,600-pound stock car that's not really built to do anything, outside of running on ovals, put rain tires on it, and not really give the drivers a proper means to get rid of water off the windshield, that it's going to be tough. I mean, those cars throw so much spray, even when it's moderately damp, that if you're in the tire tracks of somebody, you just can't see anything. And that's where the biggest incidents came from, is where, a driver checks up or slows down a little bit early for a corner. Guy behind is just making his corner. He doesn't know. And, a number of times they were making a bunch of car sandwiches out there. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I love seeing stock cars race in the wet, because it's a totally different environment than what we normally see. But I really think NASCAR needs to, figure out this wet weather formula if they're going to keep it going.
Now, I think Kurt Busch was the last driver to attempt the double, right? Running the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 on the same day, which is crazy just because how different Indy cars and stock cars are, not to mention the timing that you have to do and all the IVs and everything like that. Is anyone trying it this year?
No, unfortunately. I mean, Kurt was the last one. It was such a legendary thing. Like, great drivers like Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon, John Andretti. These are all guys that have done the full meal deal, where, for the most part, they were full-time NASCAR drivers that added the Indy 500. The schedule used to really be conducive to it. And then NASCAR changed their schedule to make it a little bit more difficult. One of these days, hopefully somebody else will be able to step up and go back and forth. I mean, Kyle Busch is probably a driver that could qualify to do that, but the restriction is, and the downside is, that most NASCAR teams have their drivers wrapped up so tight that they don't want to take a chance that, something happens in the Indy 500 and they lose their driver for, the 600, or, for a longer period if they get injured. So, it's a great accomplishment though.
Oh, it is for sure. Lastly, karting, with the announcement, possibly in 2 weeks you'll get, because I know you guys can still practice, but you can only have limited numbers at the track at a time. I think it's like 5 total people. So with the new restrictions, that mean, are we going to see karting this summer?
Boy, I hope so. I mean, we've been banging away in the shop, and we got to do a test day. We're allowed a few more people at the track now than what we were before, even for testing. So it's a little bit less tense when we're out there. But yeah, I mean, so many new faces. We got a ton of new drivers, which was funny, because I still remember my first times at the track and being that shy, kind of, loser kid over in the corner that, now that I don't want to say a senior guy, but I've been around a little bit, that, now when I get out there trying to get my kart on track, you spend a lot of your time, trying to help the new guys out there. They're asking a lot of questions, and they want to get up to speed as quick as possible. So yeah, they're really full nights. Hopefully we can get some racing here in the next couple of weeks, and, put these brand new karts out there and show what they're capable of doing.
Awesome. Well, we're running out of time, Call, but next week I want to talk a little bit more about Verstappen, of course, who's leading in F1 right now. And some people say he might have a legitimate run at Hamilton this year, so that'll be a good story to follow. We'll talk about that next week. Enjoy the 500 and the 600.
You betcha I will.